What if the quietest person in the room holds the most power, and no one even realizes it? Imagine controlling minds without a word. Here's the dark secret most never notice. In the spaces between sentences, in the pauses people desperately try to fill, power quietly grows. Consider this: 80% of people fear silence. They talk to fill emptiness, unaware that each word often betrays their intentions, their weaknesses. The louder they speak, the more transparent they become. Picture a story from Reddit. A man at work faced a colleague's constant provocation. Instead of snapping, he remained calm, quiet. Days later, the coworker unconsciously adjusted, seeking approval, trying to predict him. His silence had shifted the balance. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just the invisible pull of controlled presence. People react to what they cannot name, cannot anticipate. Contrast this with the loud, reactive approach most take. Every word is ammunition, yet most miss that the true weapon is restraint. The room reacts to silence differently than noise. It makes others expose themselves. But what if this silent power can backfire? That's where most fail. When you sit alone, Nietzsche once wrote, "You are at your strongest, for solitude sharpens the mind no crowd can touch." Think about that as you recline in the quiet of your room tonight. Everyone calls it loneliness, but we Sigmas know the truth. Isolation is a forge, and the world rarely sees the steel it produces. In silence, your thoughts crystallize, your instincts sharpen. Consider Machiavelli, pacing the candlelit halls of a bustling court, while courtiers chattered themselves into oblivion. He spoke rarely, but when he did, it landed like a hammer on an unsuspecting anvil. His silence was not emptiness, it was calculation. He understood that the world misreads stillness as weakness. When you sit alone, the eyes around you search for signs of fear, of desperation, but find only control. That subtle dread in others, that is influence. Contrast it with the relentless noise of social chatter, the constant tweeting, boasting, or idle debate. Every word thrown into the void dilutes power. The quiet man cultivates patience, anticipation, strategy. He listens, observes, and lets the world reveal its secrets in its own clamor. And yet silence isn't passive. Far from it. It is a living weapon, waiting to be wielded. How exactly? There's a Reddit confession that perfectly captures the Sigma code. A man wrote that during a tense group meeting, he said only one sentence, and everything changed. His colleagues, who had been dominating the conversation, suddenly paused, recalibrated, and even deferred to him without realizing why. That single line, delivered with calm precision, carried more weight than hours of chatter. This is not luck, it is mastery. Look at the world of CEOs and political power. Consider a high-stakes negotiation where a single, silent pause can unsettle the most confident competitor. When everyone else rushes to fill the room with words, the one who says little commands attention, forces anticipation, and dictates the tempo of interaction. Speech is silver, but silence is platinum, a mindset that Sigmas instinctively embrace. It's not about arrogance. It's about understanding that influence is often invisible. Contrast this with the typical talkers. They try to assert dominance through volume, repetition, or charisma, yet their constant noise becomes predictable, even exploitable. Meanwhile, silent influencers, whether at work, in relationships, or social circles, use minimal words to make maximum impact. They let others stumble over their own assumptions, revealing desires and fears without ever asking. Every carefully chosen pause, every unspoken implication is a subtle nudge, a psychological lever others fail to see. And here's the hidden truth. Silence is not just absence of speech. It is a trap, a quiet, psychological force that ensnares attention and obedience. But what makes silence a psychological trap? Wait until you see the unseen effect. Picture this. A Reddit user confessed that he began deliberately staying silent around manipulative friends. Every time they tried to provoke a reaction, he said nothing. At first, they were frustrated, even mocking. But soon, their words started spilling more than intended. Plans, insecurities, hidden grudges, all laid bare without a single question. His silence became a mirror, reflecting back their true intentions. The technique is deceptively simple. Strategic pauses. Ask a question, then wait. Don't fill the space. People hate emptiness. They rush to populate it with explanations, excuses, or confessions. Each pause is an invisible lever, gently prying secrets without confrontation. The more they talk, the more they reveal. The more they reveal, the more power you quietly accumulate. Contrast this with the typical chatterers around you. They overshare, embellish, and project confidence while leaking vulnerabilities. The Sigma, on the other hand, listens, observes, records. In those gaps between words, the map of human motives becomes visible. Machiavelli once advised rulers to observe before acting. Never reveal your plan too soon. In silence, you see without being seen, and you understand without revealing. But be warned, this mirror is delicate. Use it wrongly, and instead of seeing them, you become visible yourself. The wrong pause, the misjudged reaction, and your strategy crumbles. There is a hidden danger in reflection, subtle yet deadly. There's a story circulating in an online forum that perfectly illustrates the dark psychology of silence. A man found himself in a heated discussion where friends and acquaintances competed for dominance, each trying to out-talk the other. Instead of joining the verbal chaos, he responded with a single, carefully measured phrase, and then stopped. The room shifted. People paused, glanced at each other, recalibrated. Social hierarchies warped around his minimal intervention. What had been an equal field suddenly tilted in his favor, all because he understood the invisible pull of silence. Why does this work? Humans instinctively project meaning into emptiness. When words are withheld, minds rush to fill the void with assumptions, fear, desire, respect, even guilt. Every silent moment becomes a canvas, and those around you paint themselves into revealing patterns. Ordinary reactions, panicked talking, over-explaining or arguing, only confirm weakness. The strategic Sigma response turns the same situation into a psychological lever. You do not need to dominate with volume. Influence comes from the subtle tension your quiet creates. As a Sigma, you feel currents that others cannot perceive. You sense the hesitation before the confession, the tiny shift in posture, the micro-expression betraying thought. That tension, invisible to most, is a secret language of power. The room bends not because of aggression, but because of restraint. Every pause, every unspoken word becomes a signal others can't resist responding to. Yet even the strongest silence can backfire. Misjudged timing, misplaced intent, or the wrong audience can turn your weapon against you. How exactly? That hidden danger is coming up next, and it is darker than most realize. Imagine a young professional scrolling through Reddit late one night, reading about a negotiation that could have gone badly. He was offered a job with a middling salary, but instead of immediately arguing, he stayed silent. He asked a few clarifying questions, nodded thoughtfully, and then paused. Days later, the offer was revised, not slightly, but significantly higher. His silence had become leverage. He didn't raise his voice, threaten, or manipulate overtly. He let the emptiness between words do the heavy lifting. The company projected value into his calm, measured pauses, and he received what talkers often beg for: Strategic silence is not accidental. It's a process. First, listen deeply. Understand motives, anxieties, and desires. Second, respond only when necessary, and make each word count. Third, use pauses as instruments. Let them stretch, uncomfortably, just long enough to make others fill them with revealing information. The moment silence becomes deliberate, you are no longer a participant. You are the quiet conductor of unseen influence. Contrast this with the reactive talker. They rush to defend, explain, or assert, losing control of tone, pace, and perception. Every word is a chance to weaken their own position. The silent practitioner, however, gains invisible leverage. Social dynamics bend subtly. Colleagues adjust to your rhythm. Partners reveal hidden intentions, and negotiations shift in your favor without overt force. He who knows when to speak controls the battlefield. That is not just a saying. It is a principle of life for those attuned to the invisible game. Yet mastery isn't just technique, it's mindset. The mental edge behind the silence. Late at night, a Reddit user shared a quiet revelation. Over months, he deliberately resisted provocations from coworkers, friends, even strangers online. Every jab ignored, every insult met with calm observation. Slowly he noticed a shift. The tension that once rattled him diminished, replaced by a steady, unshakable confidence. Each silent moment reinforced a new identity, one immune to the chaos around him. Mindful silence works like a filter for stress. By choosing when to speak or not, you create a space where emotion cannot dictate action. Your calm becomes armor, shielding you from impulsive reactions that weaken most people. The more you practice, the more the external noise loses its grip. You begin to navigate conflicts, debates, and social pressure with a detached clarity that feels almost unfair to those still entangled in their verbal impulses. Contrast this with the noise addicts, the ones who fill every pause with chatter, seeking validation, approval, or distraction. Their energy is scattered, their influence fleeting. The Sigma thinker, in contrast, cultivates stillness, patience, and an internal rhythm. Nietzsche once wrote of self-overcoming, "The greatest victory is mastery of oneself." Silence is the medium through which this mastery flows, a quiet practice transforming tension into power. But the ultimate mastery is internal. The final step unlocks unbreakable self, and that is what comes next. There's a Reddit confession that lingers in the mind long after reading. A man who once shrank in conversations, stumbling over words, avoiding attention, discovered the power of silence. At first he felt awkward, exposed, even lonely. But slowly, with deliberate pauses, patient observation, and careful restraint, he noticed a profound shift. People began to listen differently. They leaned in, waiting for the rare word he chose to speak. Respect grew, not forced, not loud, but earned through the subtle gravity of presence. The timid man had transformed, not through action or aggression, but through the unspoken command of calm. Consider what happens when silence integrates with observation and patience. Each moment of restraint becomes a test, revealing intentions, desires, and weaknesses around you. Every carefully chosen reaction, or lack thereof, cements your authority. Over time, this creates an identity that is unbreakable. Unlike loud dominance, which burns bright and fades, silent dominance endures. It weathers provocation, manipulation, and fleeting social trends. While others compete in endless verbal sparring, the Sigma observes, adapts, and influences without detection. The power of presence becomes self-reinforcing. The quieter you are, the more your influence grows, until it is invisible yet undeniable. Think of every social interaction as a subtle chessboard. The loudest players move frantically, revealing strategy with every gesture. The silent player waits, analyzes, and acts only when the timing is flawless. Patience amplifies their authority. Restraint amplifies their presence. And while the world constantly pressures for noise, distraction, and validation, the Sigma's calm is a fortress. In the silence, there is no vulnerability, only control. He who masters silence masters the world without uttering a word. This is not hyperbole. It is the distilled truth of centuries of observation, from Machiavelli's courts to the quiet reflections of men who quietly bend circumstances to their will. Silence is not emptiness. It is a concentrated force, a vessel of unseen power. Those who underestimate it are easily manipulated. Those who wield it consciously achieve mastery. Few can even perceive, but even mastery has its shadows. There's one secret even masters overlook, a hidden layer to silence that can elevate influence to an almost untouchable level. The true edge of silence, its ultimate leverage, is waiting. Discover it for yourself, and the world begins to move differently around you, without a single word spoken.